So no goals officially, but plenty of drama in the first game of the night on Wednesday. It finished Aston Villa 0, Sheffield United 0. But as we'll discuss later, Chris Wilder's side did have the ball over the line, only to be denied by the technology. It was much more straightforward, though, for Manchester City at the Etihad. Goals from Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden made it an unhappy return for Mikel Arteta. Well, that win for City means Liverpool won't be able to win their first Premier League title against Everton at Goodison on Sunday. Pep Guardiola's team stays second, while Arsenal remain down in ninth. Sheffield United's point sees them in sixth position, with everyone now having played 29 games. Aston Villa are still down in the relegation zone, having missed the chance to jump out of the bottom three. They're just 1 point behind the three teams ahead of them, after keeping only their fifth clean sheet of the season. And joining me in the studio today, two men who never hold back in Don Hutchison and Tim Sherwood. Gents, great to see you as always. And great to see Premier League football back once more.
Some things never change, Manish. Arsenal still vulnerable and Kevin De Bruyne still brilliant. It's like he's been away for 100 days and he's perfection, isn't he?
Yeah. And Tim, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, we've had some serious things go on, of course, in the world the last few weeks. But just to get your teeth into something like football and that resemblance of normality is brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely. To be quite honest, I don't care what the games are like. We're back. The best league in the world is back, and we're looking forward to watching it every single day. You know, we've got the fortunate enough to get it back and started. We've got a real safe platform for us to play these games now and get this season finished. And to be honest, it was a breath of fresh air. I loved it.
Certainly.
Rash. It's almost like he wants to make things happen. Sometimes you've got to hold your hands up, and when Mahrez gets the wrong side of you and his goal side, you've literally got to hold your hands up to the referee and go, I am not touching him. I'm not going to bring him down.
It's already his fourth red card in an Arsenal shirt. How does something like that undermine his stature in that Arsenal dressing room?
Well, it's not good. I mean, he's got to deliver. First and foremost, you have to deliver on the pitch. But let's be frank about it. We knew he had these flaws when he was at Chelsea. And wherever he's been in his career, he's had these flaws. Yes, he's technically a good player in midfield. He could go and play as a six. I like him in there, you know, because he's not too responsible. He's making mistakes at the back there. They're looking around for leaders to young players. They're looking at David Luiz. He's won the Premier League twice. He's won trophies, an international footballer. But he's making elementary mistakes where if they was to come into the team as an Arsenal Academy player and make them mistakes in their first game, you would never ever, Manish, see them again. They would not reappear in an Arsenal shirt. But because he's got credit in the bank, because he's played in good teams, he's been fortunate to win trophies for very good teams.
But you've got to be more than just lucky.
I think it's a force of economy in Israel. I mean, when you strip his game down, he's more of a liability than he is a responsibility, in my opinion. And when you're playing centre-back and you have got them young players in and around you, you have to be a leader and you have to give them something. First and foremost, Don's absolutely right, and it has to start 90 minutes on a football pitch. Show some responsibility. If it needs to be kicked in the stands, you kick it in the stands. They played a friendly game against Brentford, they got beat. He's trying to flick the ball over the centre-forward's head. He gives the goal away, straight away. Now, because there's no fans there, I think he thinks he can get away with these things. But the whole world is looking at the Premier League. And last night, he done himself no favours. And not only himself no favours, he did Arsenal Football Club no favour.
I just wonder, is that what Mikel Arteta was getting at when he had to justify why Luiz wasn't in the starting 11? Because he said things had happened in recent weeks. It was that Brentford performance.
I read it into being, because obviously we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but I read it into being the mistake that he made against Brentford. He was too casual. Can't be casual. And the best I think I ever seen David Luiz play was in a 3 when he was at Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think if you wrap him around a couple of leaders either side and proper defenders, then he can be like an old-fashioned sweeper. He can step into midfield because he can handle the ball. He's not as exposed. And if he makes a mistake, the likelihood is he's got guys on the cover. When he's playing in a 4, my word, you are taking a massive gamble, because you can't just be saying to a centre-half, look, we're going to appreciate what you do when you get on the ball because you can ping lovely diagonal balls and pass balls into midfield and take 1 or 2 chances. You've actually got to defend at times. And in a 2, it doesn't suit him.
Well, interestingly, after the game at the Etihad Stadium, David Luiz decided off his own accord to front up to the TV cameras, and this is what he had to say.
David, I understand you've made the decision that you wanted to come out and speak to us. What is it that you want to say?
Simple as that. It's not the team foul, it was my fault. I take the decision to play. I should take another decision the last 2 months. they didn't. So today's the team, I think, did well, especially after we did 10 men. The coach is amazing. All the players did amazing. It's just my fault.
Sorry, because of the distance, I didn't quite catch that. You see,
Yeah.
you should have made a different decision in the
I
last
should have taken a different decision in the last 2 months. And I didn't. It was all about my contract, if I stay here or not. I have more 14 days to be here, and that's it. So today was my fault.
What decision do you think you should have taken?
No, different decision to try to decide my future, to try to decide as early as possible, but I didn't.
Do you think it affected the way you played tonight then?
I don't want to use that as an alibi or excuse. It's my fault, and that's it.
We certainly appreciate you coming out. What do you think your future is? Is it at Arsenal?
I love to be here. That's why I continue to train hard. That's why I came here today. That's why I try to do everything. That's why I'm here, put my face. That's why I say to all the players, nobody had me to speak. It's me. I have to show my face and be here. So I want to stay. The coach knows. The coach wants me to stay. So it's just we are waiting for the decisions.
It's not often you see a player, after 2 high-profile errors, come out and basically address the cameras who are waiting for him afterwards. How much credit does he deserve for doing that, Tim?
None at all, in my opinion. I think he's it's quite right. I mean, everyone who watched the game of football knows that he made the mistakes. I mean, why is he coming out and he's trying to disarm the interview straight away, you know, so you can't throw any more questions at him. He's just, I'm going to say it was all my fault. I'm going to take it on his chin. The manager's great. The rest of the players are all great. It was all my fault. He can do that. He's at the end of his career. Doesn't matter if he never plays another game of football. He's a billionaire. You know, does he care? I'm not sure. I've always had that. I think he plays with that sort of swagger attitude where does he care? It's wrong for me to say he doesn't care.
Yeah.
I'm sure he cares. But as I say, he's not in that critical part of his career where he needs to play every week. He's possibly played the last game for us. So he's going to miss 2 games through suspension now. There is obviously dissent at board level where they do not want to give him a contract. Mikel Arteta wants to give him a contract by the looks of it, of what he gives him around the training ground every day. But unfortunately for me, Mikel, that is not enough. He needs to give you more on the pitch. And over the years now, we've seen too many mistakes from him, which cost the team games.
I think at some point you've got to cut your ties. I think if you're Arsenal and you're Mikel Arteta and you want to have a shift and you want to see your side and your individuals not making mistakes. I think it was brave of him to do it, but I didn't get the sense that he was sincere. And I know people that know David Luiz, and they said he's such a good character and he's such lively in the dressing room. And he means well. And what he is, apparently, he's very, very emotional.
Yeah.
You know, he's this sort of South American player where he is emotional, he wears his heart on his sleeve. So maybe he thought he was doing the right thing. It didn't really come across like that.
Well, interestingly, his agent has come out in the last couple of hours and said that there is an appetite from Arsenal to sign him up. Whether that is the case, we will find out in the next few days. And that there is an appetite, too, from David Luiz to stay on at the Emirates Stadium. Just one thing. If there is a future for him at Arsenal, as you said, could he be moved in as a defensive midfielder where he would be less exposed? Because he can do that role.
It just seems to be wherever I look at Arsenal, I look at the individuals, and I think, in my opinion, Granit Xhaka's not good enough. He makes too many mistakes. He's another one that doesn't do the basics of football. Me and Tim were always taught from an early age, when you're going to play as an 8 in midfield, you've got to go forward, you've got to affect the game, and when you're tracking people back, you've got to make sure you track people back unless centre-halves give you information where you can pass people on. Granit Xhaka makes mistakes. I look at Ceballos, I think he's a pretty footballer. When he's got the ball at his feet, he can do things with the ball, but he's another one that's not really going to really dig in. Guendouzi's the one that seems to have a go and is willing to work hard and try and make things happen in terms of getting the ball back. But technically, he needs to improve. So it's a dilemma. What do you do with David Luiz? Do you take him out of there and play Mustafi and Socrates and maybe Mari as a 3 and move him into midfield? I just think while you've got a crop of youngsters that are coming through, in my opinion, I would say to him, listen, you've been great, thanks very much, you've been sensational for the young kids, go and get another move.
I mean, Don said it there with the names, Manish. You take David Luiz out and you put Mustafi in there. I mean, the Arsenal fans must be shivering, around the world. Mustafi and Socrates, they're not good enough. They got Holding, they got Chambers. They haven't got a really stick on someone you can rely on and say they've not been in this position just this season. This is 3 or 4 years in the making. They have not addressed it under Wenger. They did not address it all them years back. So now they've got a real situation.
Someone else's growth, mightn't you? Stopping someone like Willock getting in the side.
What's a kid going to do any better than that last night? Of course he would. And the fans are willing to give him time. Yes, he's come out and spoke, but they're also realised that he's coming to the end of his career, and does he really care as much as a kid who's come through the academy? When you cut him in half, he bleeds the colour of the club.